Hey friends, Audrey Henley here, and today I'm doing a really fun collab video about Antiheroes, so stay tuned. Alright, so this video is a video about Antiheroes. I was approached by Danny Ranger, who has a really great YouTube channel, and he asked if I wanted to participate in a series of videos about antiheroes, and we're all just sort of doing our own thing in regards to antiheroes, just talking about them, our favorites, or whatever. I'm pretty sure we'll be in a playlist together, and I'm going to link down below to the videos when they come out as well. I just want to name the other participants, so please check out their videos as well. Robert Jones from Story Detective, Lisa Daly, Carol Brown, Z Falk, and of course Danny Ranger. They're all going to be putting out videos about antiheroes at the same time, so please do check out their videos. And I just wanted to say, I know I've been on a bit of a hiatus, so I want to thank you all for continuing to subscribe and having faith in me. It's been a busy time. It continues to be a busy time, but it's really important to me to keep making videos, and I really missed you guys. I'm trying to get back into the habit of watching videos and commenting. I'm doing the best I can, and my to-be watch list is very long, so thank you all for bearing with me there. On to the topic, which is antiheroes. I'm gonna be honest, when I first heard the topic idea, I was like, oh great, antiheroes, love them, I can think of a million of them, and this will be an easy topic. Then I sat down and started planning this video, and it's like, what even is an antihero? I thought that I should try to define an antihero in this video to give context. I actually did research for this video. I took detailed notes, and I'm going to link down below to some really great videos on antiheroes. My favorite is one Overly Sarcastic Productions did. Highly recommend watching that because it gave me a lot of my ideas about antiheroes, and I really appreciate that video. I don't think it came out very long ago, so check that one out. So from all of my research about antiheroes, I kind of do have a better idea of how to define them and what they are. Basically, antiheroes are protagonists of a story that aren't completely heroic. They tend to be heroic in some senses, but not others, and they aren't villains, but they're not heroes either. In this context, heroic and hero are subjective, and they're actually not. It's sort of a question of morality, and morality is always subjective. What's good and what's bad is going to vary from culture to culture. So heroic is essentially what the culture the story is set in, which is usually kind of similar to the culture the readers are used to. The hero is someone who people in that society, that society tells them, this is a good person you should emulate and look up to. That is a hero. So if you lived in 1950s United States, that might be Superman. He is strong, white, abled, male. He has a lot of heroic qualities. He's brave. He doesn't appear to struggle with illness or with anything like that. He is kind of the ideal according to 1950s United States society. And it doesn't say that, I'm not trying to say that someone who's disabled or a person of color couldn't be a hero. I obviously don't think that, and I think anyone can and should be a hero. But I'm just saying, for the purpose of this video, heroes are usually whatever that society holds up as an ideal human. And so this is really interesting for me to think about, because many villains are portrayed as homosexual, over-sexualized female villains. They often have a disability of some kind. There are so many things that are associated with villains, and before I didn't really understand why is this happening, but I think when you think about the hero versus villain dichotomy, and you think about emulate versus don't emulate, that's where it gets interesting, because homophobic bias and other biases start to really show up in what media in that society produces and creates, and so it'll create a lot of villains who are people of color or people with disabilities, etc., etc. And so yes, it really is the mores and the society and the unconscious biases of the society that really show up in who they decide to put as the hero versus the villain. And antiheroes kind of fall in between that. So antiheroes have some heroic traits and some non-heroic traits. And again, this is all subjective according to society at the time, or society in the book. or in the media that's being portrayed. And I want to give an example. So V for Vendetta. I would say the hero of that story, we have Evie, of course, she's the protagonist, but V is also a very important character, and I guess I would say he's definitely the subject of the book. To be clear, I've only seen the movie, I have not read the graphic novels. But anyway, so V lives in a society that's very strict. It's basically an authoritarian version of England, so people are being like killed for disagreeing with Parliament, or like news stories or telling lies to the public, things like that. And so V is this character who does a lot of morally ambiguous things. But another interesting thing is that he does things that I think modern British people and modern, like anyone who happens to like V for Vendetta, a lot of us would agree with a lot of V's feelings and thoughts, especially in regards to freedom, things like that. Like he wants people to be able to express themselves and have free speech. And so that's something that most readers or observers, anyone taking in this media is going to think that is a heroic thing for V to think. But in the context of his society, in this world V is in, that's actually an unheroic quality. And so it sort of makes him an anti-hero in an interesting way, in that he's doing things that aren't heroic according to the standards of that society. And that's something really fun to play with. I really love sci-fi for this reason, because you can explore different societies and ways of thinking and throw characters in there who might share some of the same beliefs as readers. And that's always really fun, because readers are obviously going to root for that character. Really Sarcastic Productions had a really interesting point that anti-heroes are sort of they're usually at the margins of society. They're doing things that society does not agree with. That is right. So for example, Jessica Jones, she has superhuman abilities. She is within the Marvel canon universe, and she has super strength and stuff like that. But she also is an alcoholic and has serious issues. She's mean to people around her. She isn't a hero in that way, but she's still doing good things. Anti-heroes, I think, are beloved because they sort of represent more people than heroes would. So like, I think it's pretty non-controversial to say most of us wouldn't root for an alcoholic as a heroic character. We don't think that's something good. We don't encourage that in society, but having a character who does struggle with that, I think, is really important, and everyone wants to be represented in fiction. Please comment below and help me. But I'm struggling with the idea of like, can there be heroes with serious like issues and downsides? Like, we all know that heroes should have like a weakness. In Superman's case, it's like kryptonite, and it's not really his fault. And I think in a lot more nuanced heroes, we have characters who have pretty serious faults. But if it gets to be things like alcoholism or hurting other people, do we ever think those people can be heroes? And can we show the very real parts of their journey and still call them heroes? I'm interested in this a lot. Anyway, I wanted to talk about a book that I've just recently read, listened to it on audiobook, and it's called Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. And I wanted to talk about this book as potentially an anti-hero story. And any of you who have read this book, I would love your opinion on this too. And the reason I'm thinking about this is because the protagonist, Eleanor, is very much at the margins of society. She's someone who suffered abuse when she was a child. I don't know that she's poor, but she works a very menial job and lives in an apartment that she got. I think it's like a government subsidized apartment. She lives a very frugal lifestyle, and she deals with serious mental illness. And I think it's the mental illness thing that is really interesting to me, because I feel like that almost just the fact of telling a story and having someone with a severe mental illness be the hero, like, it's almost like it's antithetical to many storytelling ideas. Something that's bothered me when outlining and when coming up with stories is the fact that protagonists are always supposed to be active. They're always making things in their life happen. And I would argue that Eleanor Oliphant, she just kind of stumbles into situations, and there is this initial like inciting incident of getting a crush. So Elinor gets a crush on a singer, and believes that they are fated to end up together. But she doesn't do that much directly to make that happen. And she does, like, a lot of the things she decides to do, like get a wax or like get a new haircut, a lot of it is influenced by that crush she has on this guy, but she just sort of stumbles into it all and isn't the most active protagonist. And I think this almost makes her an anti-hero if we're sticking with the idea that heroes are people society would tell us to emulate. And I don't think society would tell us to emulate a poor woman with a mental illness, right? I just don't think that's the thing we do. And so it's this weird thing. Like, is she automatically an anti-hero because of a mental illness? I don't know. It's an interesting question, and I think it almost certainly makes for it forces readers to read the book in a different way, and it forces writers to write in a different way. Like, if you're writing about a character who can't be super active all the time because there's like, say they have a memory block and they can't remember something, and so they're going to avoid certain triggers. The human brain is so interesting, but humans who have like mental blocks or they have things that they can't remember, their brain will like help them avoid things that could help them remember. And so they might irrationally seem to not want to do certain actions because they're trying to avoid remembering that. I know this sounds weird. If you've gone through significant trauma, things like this can happen. And so you can have protagonists who aren't super active, and I think you're not going to find a writing advice book that tells you that's okay. Yeah, I guess I'm coming at you with more questions than answers in this video. I'm just thinking a lot about heroism and who can be a protagonist, or like when is this character like an unusual protagonist? This isn't the kind of protagonist we're used to having in books. And I'd love to hear your experience if you've ever written a character who wasn't super active and had people tell you to rewrite them or make them different. I'm super interested in that. And of course, people at the margins of society can be very active. I'm not just saying that. I'm just saying maybe not every single person in the world is super active. Does that mean they don't get to be heroes? They don't get to be protagonists? I don't know. I found Eleanor Oliphant really interesting. I might do a separate review video on it. It was really affecting for me as someone who's dealt with depression a lot. There's some moments that were really beautiful in that book, and it also broke some stereotypes about books that are that follow someone with a mental illness. I tend not to like those books because I find them cliched or like not really diving in depths, but this one did it and left me with like a positive feeling for once, which was really cool. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I really loved Eleanor Oliphant. I probably should do a review video because I already have lots of ideas for it. But I guess I just want to wrap up this video by asking again, like, who tends to be a hero? Who tends to be a villain? What kind of like prevents someone from being a hero in a lot of people's eyes? Just super interested in what you have to say. I hope that I'm not like, I guess in this context, I'm not using hero as like, it's hard to separate this. It's hard to separate hero from like being like a good person you want to emulate, and the social construct, right? And social constructs are large. They're, you know, people who hold the same beliefs as the society they're in. It's often subconscious, like they don't realize that. The racist and the homophobic and all the biases that come with it aren't always conscious. Like a lot of times they're not conscious. And so I think heroes tend to be white, cis-abled people because that's what writers subconsciously believe is the kind of person that deserves to be the protagonist of a book. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, of course I think people of all kinds can be brave and someone who has several things about them you'd want to emulate, but I just don't, I'm struggling with traditional heroes and stuff. So please let me know down below about your favorite anti-heroes. What are some heroes that, I don't know, the term hero and anti-hero are actually very slippery. They're very societal based, and they just, there's no one definition. So it's very interesting, and I think who you see as heroes and who you see as villains says a lot about your society and its biases. So anyway, that's all I have for now. Thank you so much for joining me and coming back after my hiatus. I really appreciate it, and thanks to everyone who was part of this collab video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little bell thing. See you guys next week. Bye!